installed the pistons and conrods onto the crank, and now it's time to finish up the bottom end. We need to install the rear main seal, the oil pump itself, the windage tray, the oil pickup tube, and then the sump itself. So let's do that now. I'm going to quickly go through the parts that I've bought for this build. New Honda oil pump. We have a full seal kit for the engine. I'm not going to need all of these because I have some that I've bought separately as well. I've got the OEM Honda gasket. That's the part number. I've got the main seal. That's the part number. And I've got some Honda Bond. These two actually come in this kit, but these are very good parts to fit. So that's what I've done. And of course I've got all the old stuff in here, which is from the engine originally. So the first thing we have to do is prepare this. We've got to take the old one out. So there's probably nothing wrong with this seal, but you know, you may as well put in a new one if you're here. Going to get a large screwdriver, go against the side here, and then just whack it down. So there was the setup. It was just on there. Hit down twice with the hammer, and it came out. And then I'm just going to clean up this as well as I can. I'm going to get the non-mar scraper and just take all of this gasket off. So just showing how easy it is to remove all of this sealant. The seal holder all wiped down and with all the sealant removed, and also it's important to clean around this rim. Get it on a flat surface, and then you get your new seal in there. Okay, so I just tap that in, and you can do that by hitting at various points. Never just hit on one side, of it won't go in flush. And you can see that's good because it's not protruding, and that is done. Honda are nice enough to provide some lubrication around the seal. First things first, we need to come in and remove all of the old gasket. So I've got a non-mar scraper here, and you can see it'll all just come off. Some bits will be harder than others, and then that's on the surface of the block. And then this is the rear main seal that you saw me put the seal into. This is the aluminium part of it, the back of it, which goes to the block. You see that's all been cleaned off. So you need to make a nice surface there, and then use Honda Bond. I'll show you that. There we have it. There's a smear of this Honda Bond you'll be familiar with, and then you make sure you just put a little bit here and a little bit here, and make sure you have it to the edges, so it's kind of going there, there, all the way around, and there again. So this is the rear main seal going in. You just got to make sure that it's a nice clean surface. I'm just going to wipe around, and this has lubrication which has already been applied by Honda, so then you can just go in and just be very nice. There you go. Right, next is the oil pump, and again I've just cleaned off the surface. You can see that there's a little bit remaining there, which I'll just take off. You can just kind of use the scrapers mainly. You're just trying to get a nice smooth surface for the Honda Bond to go on. So that will be pretty much good enough. And then you've got the new oil pump. And this is a Honda OEM item, and then this is the seal that goes up here. I'll put that on when it's on, and then you've got a little seal which goes there as well, a little O-ring. So first of all I'm going to get the Honda Bond again and place it around the pump. So that's it, it's round here, round there, and then here. Make sure you do get the two horizontal edges here, and that's the seal in place. Now I'm just going to place it on, and what's important to note here is that you have this flat side there, and then that corresponds to the flat side you have, and that's pretty much in the right place that it needs to be, where the crank needs to be, for the pump to go straight on. Pump going on. So you notice there's already oil round the seal that Honda already put in the brand new oil pump, so if you didn't have that you'd have to put that in yourself. There we go. It's sitting on the end of the crank. There we go. And that might just need a little tap. Then just with the rubber hammer, just tap them into position. There we go. And the bolts are two long 12mm in here, and then you have 1, 2, 3, 4 10mm bolts. Here's one of the 12mm bolts going in. And when you tighten those two 12mm, you notice a little bit of the Honda bond coming out, then you can just wipe off the excess there. Then it's worth really placing this little gasket on top there, just so you don't forget it. There's a hole here for the dipstick, so you can just line it up with that. Like that. And then you've got a nut here, a nut over here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts. Just here, just wiping off the excess after tightening up the oil pump. Do all these up. Then we have the oil pickup tube. Now I've already cleaned this out. You can just place that on there. Obviously this little gasket is still in there. It's important. Like that, and it's just 2 nuts, which are 10mm, and 2 bolts, that are 10mm. Right, now the final thing is this sump. As you can see, I need to remove the old bits of Honda bond that have been placed on each of these raised bits. Right, now the oil pickup tube is on, you can place the gasket, the sump on as well, and just pop that over each of these studs, like that. And I'll just show you the box that it came out of. Actually got it for another car, but I'm using this one because the one in the kit that I got doesn't look as good. So that's on there now. And then you want to get the sump. The sump has been fully cleaned out and completely dry. And then you can just get the sump, turn it right around. Place it on like that. The most important thing is that you line up all the holes for the gasket. It wasn't quite there before. Line up all the holes for the gasket, like that. And so when you can see all the holes, you know you'll be in the right place pretty much. Okay. 8 nuts and the rest are 10mm bolts. Now one thing I'm going to mention is that previously when I built this engine I'd placed liquid gasket or Honda bond in each of the spots either side of the nuts and the bolts. Now just looking at the Honda build manual, it doesn't even talk about that, so I did that because I was following another manual I'd found. So I'm going to go with what Honda recommends, and I've just spent ages clearing off all the Honda bond from before, so I don't want to go through that again. So if it leaks, it leaks, and I'll report back, and if it doesn't, that's what Honda intended anyway, to not use any liquid gasket, so I'm not going to do it with an electric wrap to do all of the nuts and bolts up. And when you do, just make sure you go in a cross pattern. What you don't want to do is just tighten up one side then the other, otherwise the whole sump is going to be sitting at another angle and it won't seal as well. So that's all tightened down nicely. You know you'll have a good seal if you're not bulging out all over the way because you've tightened it too much. So that's the bottom end at least sealed up pretty much. Knock sensor, let's make sure it focuses, and that just goes here, and then you just thread that up, and that's basically an accelerometer which allows the ECU to measure knock events. So you can just get a large adjustable spanner, or if you've got the right spanner then use that. But then we have the oil pressure sensor, and see it's got the hole in the end of it and a little bit of oil remaining. Just make sure that none of the original Honda bond is still on there, and then you can obviously apply your own. You just get a little bit of Honda bond around the threads, and you're placing it in that hole and doing it up with 24mm. So just done it up with 24mm. We've just got this little tube, and that is for the actual breather. I've just got some Honda bond. I can just make sure that's smeared around into all the threads, because you don't want any leaks there. And that just goes into this top hole here. And that's done up with a 14mm single hex. A oil filter on there, but I've got this sandwich plate made by Glow Shift, although you can get lots of different ones. And with this, I had it something like this. So it's got this female thread in there, and it just goes up to the male thread, which is there. And I seem to remember it only fitting, I think it was only fitting between like those two, something like that. So we'll just do it up like that. It's already got the pressure sensor, which is at the end of it, and the temperature, oil temperature as well. You can just do that up by hand. Okay, and then do it up completely with 1 1/16". Very strange size, but that's what you need to do this bolt up, and then you can put an oil filter on top of it. Then we have this little breather box. Just make sure you have that seal in place. Oil on the seal itself. Have it in flush. And then you can, there you go, that's in there like that. And then the tube that we just put on a second ago, that's what this hose goes over the top. You've got this bolt, which is 14mm in the bottom here, and that just holds the box in place. So once that's tight, you can just place this little spring clip in place. Now is as good a time as any to put the oil filter on. You see here I've got a Bosch P2036. They're all different types of filter that fit the Honda B18. This is one of them. So as always with the oil filter, I just put some oil around the rubber ring, and I'm just going to use the same bit of mineral oil that I dipped the bolts in. So just put a little bit on there and just rub it around. Okay, that's good. And you can just tighten that oil filter down. So now we have the water pump. You can see I've got the old seal I'm just pulling out here, and then I've got to get rid of any sealant on there as well. So I'll just scrape that all off. Water pump, and in the Honda manual it doesn't say anything about any sealant going on as well, so I'm not going to put any sealant in there. All I've done is remove the old sealant. I've got the new seal from my gasket set, so it looks like a fairly good fit on there. Okay, And then if this wasn't a very new, like it's only done like 1,000 miles, water pump, then I would be replacing this right now. But because this, like I say, hasn't had much use, then you know, what's the point? You may as well just put it on. So that just has 5 10mm bolts around the outside of it, and then just to stick this on. But before you stick it on, just make sure you get rid of any of the gasket that might still be there. And then it's got 2 dowels, one here, okay, and then one that goes up in here, and you just got to mind them as it goes in. So it's in there, it's pretty much in there as well. Then you just get your bag of bolts. That's what they look like. It's just standard 10mm bolts. Then you've got this water connection pipe. First thing you need to do is get rid of the old O-rings. So there's one around here. There's the second one. There you go. And the other one. Okay, it's in there like that. Now I've cleaned that all up. You can see that. What you can do, you can fit this inside here, where you see that groove is, and the little what you'd call that, spike or whatever. So that goes in there. Okay. So it's the whole way home. Like that. It's probably going to be easier for me actually now to take this off. It's easily done, just pinch that and take that out. This is in here like so. There we go. And then get this in here. There we go. That's gone the whole way in there like that. Okay, it's gone nice and deep in there. Which is good, that's what you want. And then you can just get your 2 bolts, and I'll just place one in to begin with after I've cleaned up the thread with a die. So that is much better now. And then put that in there like that. Bolt locations, there's one on the top and there's one on the bottom. And until I can either find that bolt or the new bolt I've ordered comes, let's just have one in there as a placeholder. Now I'm just placing this little breather pipe thing back where it was. Right, then we just have the lower alternator bracket, and that's just got these 3 14mm bolts holding it in. So just thread those in. Then we have the upper alternator bracket, it's the same thing. 2 14mm, just going to go in like that. Right, now I'm going to put the alternator in. It's just a matter of taking this big lower bolt out, slide that across to there, place it in. Just put the nut back on. Okay, and then just take out this top nut, through there like that, square peg in the back. You may as well put it on the smallest setting to begin with until I get the alternator almost the smallest setting until I get the alternator belt in place. And you can just knit them up for now. You're going to have to mess around with it in a bit anyway. Now I'm going to give 2 tips which you can take or leave. I always put everything in bags when I take it off, and usually label it unless it's really obvious what it is. And then if it's something like a little assembly, I've just put a zip tie through the lot of this, named that outer, named this inner, and then it just saves you having to think too much about, you know, when you put the whole thing back together again. You can just simply come along, snip the zip tie off, okay, and you can just place this in there. Just make sure there's nothing on the crank nose. There isn't. Right, place that in there like that. Then this has got a little keyway. You can just about see that in there. It's got a keyway in there, and it's also got a little timing mark, so that will tell you which way is out as well. Also, if I just show you this washer again, you notice it's got it's a bit concave, so it's kind of bending the outwards. The outer part is bending inwards, if you see what I mean. So towards the block. Put that in there. Place this in here. Like so. Just line it up. Like that. And the outer one. Next thing to go on is this cam belt tensioner. Again, it's in a bag with the spring and everything. Hasn't seen too much action, so it can go back on without too many issues. The other thing, so I really stripped this block down to absolutely nothing, is the little peg. It's the little peg that it rides on. So it rides in this peg here. And this bolt goes in here. But this little peg actually goes just there, just below the water pump. So the first thing in this process you need to do is get a 10mm deep and just do that up. Then once the peg is in, you can just place this tensioner pulley on there with the 14mm long bolt with the washer on there. You don't want to tighten that up yet, because obviously you're going to need to set the tension on the cam belt, but you just want it so it still can move, but it's not flopping around everywhere. And just come in around the back there, and then just put that little spring in there. So that's a good place to leave it. The bottom end's done now. Now it's time to move on to the head.